Welcome to the NLP UK Training Podcast. I'm Fraser.
And I'm Steve Kay.
And today we're going to be talking about that never-ending to-do list and how we tend to put off some of the big stuff.
The difficult stuff.
The big jobs, the things that we're kind of dreading doing. And that always ends up at the bottom.
And it's looking at you on your list.
Winking.
Looking at you.
So I've always been a list maker. I have a list for everything. I wake up in the morning and I look at my list. What have I got to do today? But most people kind of do their lists the wrong way.
Okay.
So most people will do their to-do list in the morning. Mm-hmm. But here's a little tip for you. Stop doing that. Do it the night before.
Right. Then you're thinking about it all night.
Well, no, that's the thing. When you don't do your list the night before, you do think about it all night. Because you're thinking, I must remember to do that thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So little psychological tip for you, get it out of your brain onto paper.
Yeah.
Last thing before you leave the office, do your to-do list for the next morning. If you think of something else, you can jot it down. But the minute you jot it down and it's out of your brain, you can then actually have better quality downtime in the evening with your friends or with your family. So that's your first tip.
You know, one of these people who takes a notepad to bed and a pencil, so if you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock, you can write down an idea, do you?
Oh, that's what phone notes are for.
Oh, right,
okay. So, second thing, are you the type of person that looks at your to-do list and go, right, that's not going to take long, that's not going to take long, let's get the easy things ticked off first. Mm-hmm. That's how I used to do my to-do list.
Yeah.
Because it kind of felt like I was making progress.
Yes.
It felt really good to tick those off.
Well, you are making progress.
And what I would even do sometimes, I would write something down at the bottom of my list that I'd already done, just so I could tick it off.
Cool.
Because it felt good. But actually, what was happening, I was doing the unimportant stuff.
Ah, right.
I was doing the things that, do you know what? If they didn't get done, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I could have done them anytime.
Yeah.
And what I was doing, that thing on my list that was going to take me time, that was going to take some effort, might not have been the easy stuff. Mm-hmm. That was the one that I was leaving right till the end. Mm-hmm. And quite often that would be the one that at 5 o'clock would go on my list for the next day. Because I've been too
used
busy.
To call that, eat that frog. Bless
Absolutely.
Him. He'd say the sucker would be looking at you all day. Going, looking at you.
Yeah, so there's a great book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And after reading that, it really changed how I looked at how to do my little to-do list every day. So what Zig and Brian say is that once you've done your to-do list, have a look through it, look for that slimy toad.
Yeah.
So look
the thing you've been putting off, the big stuff, the hard stuff.
The thing that you don't want to have to swallow.
Yeah. Steady.
That's the thing that you need to kind of do first. Okay. That's the most important thing on your list. So all those little quick, easy wins, leave those. They don't matter.
Okay.
What matters is that horrible, big, slimy toad that you don't want to eat.
So you do the really, really big impact, important one first. And the worst one to do, the one you're dreading doing, you do that first to get it out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then do you find that gives you more energy to do the other stuff?
Yeah, what I tend to find is the smaller stuff was actually taking me quite a lot of time and effort.
Right.
Because
you were slowing down doing it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to do the big frog.
So you slow down doing all the trivial stuff. Do you know that happens sometimes with people who come on our programs and they're setting up their own coaching or mindset training business, and they start off by doing a website, and then they learn how to do reels or whatever, and then they get more marketing stuff done. But what they don't do is get any customers.
And that's the frog.
And that's the frog, because that's the hard thing to do. Well, we said, but they think it's the hard thing to do. It might not be the hard thing to do. It might be that it's actually easier than you think. But in your head, it's the frog.
Absolutely. Sometimes once you start to tackle your frog, you realise it's not as big and unpalatable as you think it's going to be. But some frogs are massive. They're enormous frogs. So sometimes you're going to chop the frog up into bits.
Frog's legs.
Yeah, frog's legs, absolutely. So you eat one leg one day, another leg the next day, its head the day after, and that's
Snails
okay.
next, folks.
But it really can make a real difference, because if you are doing the stuff that is going to give you the biggest win, the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to you, to your organization, if you've got your own business, to your business, that's the thing that you need to tackle first and foremost. Get it done. The other stuff will take care of itself one way or the other. Either you'll get through it much quicker because you've done your frog, or if you don't get it done, it's not the most important thing anyway.
No. But the little stuff, people say, well, I've got to do that for other people, maybe.
Do you really?
Sometimes people feel they have to do things.
I think it's about understanding whether it's a must do, a need to do,
And it has a big impact.
and it has a big impact, or is it, well, it's a nice to have done, but ultimately, does it need to be me? So I always think, can I give this to someone else to do? Can I delegate it? Can I do it in a much more effective way?
Yeah.
Or can I delete it altogether?
Yeah.
And actually, there's always one of those three options that I find I can get things done quicker, or get them off my plate altogether so that I can focus on that frog.
And we've talked about big impact and little impact before, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
And sometimes when you list out your big impact stuff, there's not that many things that are big impact. And if you focus more time on those big impact stuff, then sometimes little impact stuff doesn't matter, or you'll do it very quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another tip that I've got for you is think about when you're going to do that big frog, when you're going to tackle it. For me, I'm always at my best in the morning. So I tend to have what's called a power hour first thing in the morning. So for me, between about 7:30 and 8:30, I know no one's going to be calling me up. Very occasionally I might get an email during that time, but it would be very rare at that early in the morning. But that's when I'm at my most creative. So if I've got something big that needs tackling, that's when I find that I get the most amount done, and I do it in the most creative way. Now, that's me. I'm a morning person. Not everyone's a morning person. That wouldn't work for someone, for example, that's got small kids, and you've got to get them out to school or nursery. My partner, Matt, who we've talked about before, he hates morning. He has negotiated with every organisation that he's ever worked with that he starts at 10 and finishes at 6. So he's still in bed at 7:30 in the morning while I'm having my power hour and cracking on with stuff. For him, he's at his best in the evening. So for him, if he's got a frog on his to-do list, it's between 6 and 7 that he does his frog.
In the evening?
In the evening. Because that's when he's got quiet time. He's not being disturbed by emails or phone calls. He can really focus, and that's when he's at his most creative.
Right.
So it's not just about doing it first. It's about doing that frog when you're at your absolute best. Now, if you're like me, and that's early in the morning, carve out that time, put it in your diary. If you're best after lunch, carve out your diary after lunch. If like, Matt, you're best in the evenings, carve out your diary and that is going to be your time. You know that's when you're going to eat that frog and get stuff done.
I suppose also it's dependent on what your goals are, isn't it?
Yeah.
So your goals really need to come first and align with your values, and then these things follow on from that.
Yeah.
But if you've not got the right goals, you're not going the right direction, then it doesn't really matter what you do, does it? So this comes after the goal setting and the values alignment. Cool.
So guys, in essence, 3 top tips for your to-do list. Make sure you do them the night before. Should be the last thing that you do before you leave your desk in the evening, not the first thing that you do in the morning. Second tip is don't sweat the small stuff. Go for your frog. Get that horrible slimy toad swallowed. And tip number 3 is really think about when you're at your best and really focus that time on eating your frog, whether that's morning, evening, or any time in between. So that's it from us today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another podcast for you. We'll see you then.
See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.